I never thought I'd be the guy writing something like this, but here I am. My wife Emily and I have been together for about 8 years. We met in college, everything seemed perfect, happy, stable, comfortable. She was always a little bitchy, sure, quick to snap and throw shade, but I figured that was just her personality. She's gorgeous, intelligent, and charming when she wants to be, and I always wanted to believe we had something real. At least I did until recently. Things started feeling off about 6 months ago. She'd be distant, canceling plans last minute or brushing me off with some excuse about work or her friends. I'd ask what was going on, she'd brush it off, say I was being paranoid, accuse me of overthinking. But I knew her too well. She's not the type to just suddenly become neglectful for no reason. I brushed it aside at first, told myself she was stressed or busy, but deep down, I suspected something else. Then there was the night I saw the messages. I wasn't snooping. I swear, I wasn't. Just happened to notice her phone was unlocked on the kitchen table when I went to grab a glass of water. I didn't even mean to look, but her notifications lit up with a message from Alex, her best friend. The way they were talking, it wasn't just friendly banter, it was flirty, suggestive. They talked about meeting up later and he called her babe. My stomach dropped. I thought I was imagining things, so I looked closer. There were more messages, more hints, all in her notifications. At first I felt numb. How could she do this? Right under my nose, during what was supposed to be a tough time for my family. My dad's funeral was just the day before. I had been there trying to hold it together, and the whole time she was sneaking around behind my back with Alex. That bastard. I trusted him too, thought he was part of my family, part of my life. Turns out he was just waiting for the chance to screw everything up. I confronted her the next day, of course. I couldn't keep it in anymore. I showed her the messages, the screenshots. Her reaction was incredible. She looked at me with this fake innocent face, said I was crazy, that I was reading into things. She told me Alex was just a friend, that I was overreacting, being paranoid, and that I needed to stop accusing her. She said she loved me, that I was the only one she ever loved, and I believed her for a second, but I knew better. I felt it in my gut, that sharp, cold truth. She was cheating on me, and she hadn't even cared enough to hide it properly. The worst part, she kept lying. Said she and Alex never did anything, that they just texted, that it was innocent. But I knew better. I knew what I saw. I felt sick every time I looked at her, trying to pretend it was all a mistake, trying to hold on to whatever was left of what I thought we had. I kept asking myself how she could lie so easily, how she could betray me like this while I was mourning my father, while I was vulnerable. It made me feel so damn stupid, so naive, and angry, furious. How could she be so selfish, so manipulative? The betrayal hit me hard. I'd always believed in honesty, in loyalty. Now I was staring at this mess of lies, and I felt like I didn't even recognize her anymore, that she wasn't even the woman I married, the woman I loved. I kept replaying everything, the little things I missed, the signs I ignored, the moments she dismissed as nothing. It all added up to this terrible, crushing truth. She was cheating on me, and she didn't care about the damage she was doing. I was devastated, wondering how I had missed all the signs, how I had trusted her for so long only to find out she had been lying right in my face. That night, after the confrontation, I couldn't sleep. I stayed awake, staring at the ceiling, feeling like my world was falling apart. I knew I needed to do something, but I didn't know what. Part of me wanted to fight for us, to save what was left. Another part just wanted to walk away and forget her. I felt betrayed, humiliated, and deeply hurt. I couldn't believe I had been so blind. I kept asking myself why I wasn't enough, why she had gone looking for someone else, especially someone I thought was my friend. It's like everything I believed in, everything I trusted was just a house of cards ready to collapse. I don't even know what the future holds now. All I know is that I need time to figure out if I can forgive her or if I should just cut my losses. But one thing, for sure, things are broken beyond repair, and I'm left trying to pick up the pieces of a life I thought I understood. After that night, everything changed. I couldn't look at Emily the same way. Every word, every gesture now felt loaded with lies. The way she tried to act innocent, the way she brushed me off when I brought up her phone, she was trying to gaslight me, and I saw through it. But it wasn't just her lying. It was that sneaky feeling that I'd been so blind for months, maybe even years. I started digging around more. I couldn't help it. I deleted her messages, but I still had saved some screenshots and I looked through her social media. That's when I found more hidden texts, secret plans, private messages with Alex where they talked about how hot she looked, how much she loved the thrill. I felt a mix of rage and heartbreak. How could someone I trusted so deeply be out there screwing around behind my back? It was like a punch to the gut every time I uncovered something new. I was angry at myself, too. I kept asking, why didn't I see this? How could I be so damn stupid? I was furious that she lied, that she'd keep telling me she loved me, while behind my back she was doing God knows what with Alex. It wasn't just cheating, it was the betrayal of everything we had built. I kept thinking about all those nights she'd dismiss my worries, tell me I was overreacting, that I was paranoid. Turns out she'd been planning this for a while, hiding it all under her bitchy attitude and those fake smiles. I decided I couldn't just sit around and pretend it was okay. The next morning, I sat her down again. I told her I knew everything, that I had seen the messages, that I wasn't going to be played for a fool anymore. Her reaction, she lost her temper. Said I was crazy, that I was reading too much into things, and that I was jealous. She threw tantrums, slammed doors, and called me insecure. That was her way of dismissing the truth, but I wasn't backing down. I told her she had to pick me or Alex, and that if she chose Alex, I was done. That's when she said something that made my blood run cold. She looked me dead in the eyes and said, "You're just jealous because I don't need you anymore. Alex makes me feel alive, something you never did." That hit me hard. I felt like she just spat in my face. How could she be so callous, so selfish? I'd always thought she was kind of a bitch, yeah, but this was pure evil. She didn't even try to deny it anymore. She just stood there smiling that fake smile and told me to get lost if I couldn't handle the truth. I left the house that day feeling numb. My mind was racing. I wanted to believe she'd come clean, that maybe I could forgive her, but deep down, I knew that trust was broken beyond repair. I looked at her, at the woman I'd married, and saw a stranger. Someone manipulative, selfish, and unfaithful. I felt so betrayed that I didn't even know what to do next. I stayed out all day, wandering around, trying to process what I'd uncovered, what I'd lost. The pain was overwhelming, like a heavy weight on my chest. I couldn't breathe sometimes. That night I came to a brutal realization. I couldn't keep doing this. I couldn't keep pretending that everything was okay. I knew I had to make a decision. I couldn't keep living in this lie. I'd been blinded by love, sure, but now I saw her for who she really was, a woman who would lie, cheat, and manipulate just to get her way. The trust was shattered, and I had to figure out whether I'd fight for what was left or walk away and start over. But honestly, every part of me just wanted her out of my life entirely. I was done with her games, done with the betrayal. It was one thing to find out she was cheating. That wound's enough. But it was another to realize how deeply she'd lied and manipulated me. I felt humiliated, angry, and utterly broken. I knew I needed to get away for a while to clear my head, but inside I was already planning my next move. I wanted her to feel what I was feeling, that sense of losing everything you thought was real. That's the part they never tell you in movies. The heartbreak, the anger, the feeling that you've been played for a fool. I didn't sleep that night. Instead, I stayed awake thinking about my options. Could I forgive her? Could I rebuild what we had? Or was this the end? Every instinct told me to cut her out, to walk away for good, but a part of me still hesitated. Maybe because I was holding on to hope, or maybe because I didn't want to believe it was truly over. At that point, I just knew I couldn't trust her anymore. The woman I married, the one I loved, had turned into someone I barely recognized, someone capable of lying and cheating behind my back while I was at my most vulnerable. That's what hurts the most. Not just the affair, but the complete loss of trust, of what I thought was real. The days that followed were a blur. I moved out of the house, not because I wanted to punish her, but because I couldn't stand to look at her face without feeling rage and hurt. I stayed with a friend, trying to get some space to breathe, to think. Every minute I was gone, I kept replaying everything. How I missed the signs, the little things I ignored, the way she lied so effortlessly. It was like I'd been blind all along, and now I was finally seeing the aftermath of her betrayal in full detail. The worst part was the silence. No calls, no texts from her, trying to make peace or explain herself. Instead, I got a few angry voicemails, mostly her bitching about how I was overreacting, how I was crazy for trusting Alex, how I was just jealous. Classic Emily, blame everyone else but herself. I didn't even bother to listen to more than a few seconds. I knew her game by then. She was deflecting, trying to manipulate me into feeling guilty for catching her. But I was done feeling guilty. I'd already fallen for enough lies. I started thinking about what I wanted to do next. Part of me wanted to confront her again, to tell her I knew everything, to see if she'd finally admit it. But deep down, I knew that would just open a can of worms. Emily's the type who's good at twisting everything around. I had to be smarter. I decided I'd gather all the evidence I could, screenshots, messages, anything that proved she'd been lying. I didn't want to go into this blind. I needed proof, hard and undeniable, because I knew she'd deny everything again if I just asked. In the meantime, I also reached out to Alex. I didn't want to be reckless or impulsive, but I needed to know what the hell was going on in his head. I sent him a message, straightforward, no threats, just questions. I told him I knew about the affair, that I was hurt and angry and I wanted some answers. His reply: he played the victim, said I was overreacting, that Emily was just a friend, that I was paranoid. That's when I realized how deep this whole thing was. They were both so good at lying, gaslighting, making me feel like I was going crazy. That's part of what made it so hard. I kept questioning myself, wondering if maybe I'd misunderstood, if I was just insecure or jealous. But I was. I knew what I saw. I knew what I felt. And I knew I had to do something to protect myself. I wasn't going to sit here and let her manipulate me into staying in some half-baked relationship filled with lies. I decided to get a lawyer to explore my options. I wasn't planning to rush into anything, but I wanted to be prepared. Divorce, or at least separation, felt like the only way to regain some control of my life. I'd been so trusting, so naive, and now I was paying the price. At this point, I was just tired. Tired of the lies, tired of feeling like a fool, tired of pretending everything was okay when it was. I'd always believed in honesty and loyalty, but Emily had shown me a different side, one that was manipulative, bitchy, and capable of screwing anyone over if it suited her. That realization hit me hard. I started to accept that maybe I deserved better, someone who wouldn't lie to me, who wouldn't betray me during the worst time of my life. I began to think about the future. Would I ever trust again? Could I rebuild what she tore apart? Honestly, I don't know, but I do know I have to prioritize myself now. No more guilt, no more second guessing. I've learned that even the people closest to you, your wife, your friends, can turn out to be the ones you least expect. That trust is fragile, and once it's broken, it's almost impossible to fix. But I'm determined to move on, even if that means starting over from scratch. All I can say is, if you're going through something similar, don't ignore the signs. Don't dismiss your gut feelings, trust them. And don't let someone manipulate or gaslight you into doubting yourself. It's painful, yes, but sometimes the truth has to come out, no matter how ugly it is. I wish I had seen it sooner, and I wish I'd been stronger before she tore everything apart. But now I'm here, trying to pick up the pieces, knowing that I'll come out stronger, eventually. The hardest part about all this isn't just the betrayal itself, but how much it messes with your head afterward. After I found out, I spent days just wandering around, trying to make sense of everything. I couldn't concentrate at work, I couldn't sleep, and every time I closed my eyes, I saw her face, smiling, lying, pretending everything was fine. It's like my mind kept replaying all the moments I ignored the signs, all the times she dismissed my feelings with that bitchy attitude of hers. One day, I finally decided I needed to confront her again, this time not to yell or accuse, but to get some kind of closure. I messaged her, told her I was coming over. I wanted to see her face, see if she'd finally admit what she'd been doing. When I arrived, she greeted me with that same scowl, that bitchy smirk. She acted like she didn't care, like I was just an annoyance. She sat on the couch, crossing her arms, and looked right at me. I started by telling her everything I'd discovered about her conversations with Alex, the plans, the lies, her reaction. She said I was overreacting, that I was crazy for accusing her without proof. She denied everything, of course. Said that Alex was just her friend, that I was paranoid and jealous. She threw in a few tears, a fake show of innocence, trying to make me feel guilty for even bringing it up. But I wasn't falling for it anymore. I told her I had enough evidence, enough proof, and I wasn't going to keep pretending that I was the fool. Then she snapped. She called me possessive, controlling, and accused me of not trusting her. Said that I was just insecure because I was afraid of losing her. That's when I saw her true colors, how she could spin everything to make herself look like the victim. She's good at that, always has been. But this time I wasn't buying it. I told her I was done with her lies, that I didn't want to live in a house built on betrayal anymore. I said I was going to leave, that she could have her Alex and her little secret life, but I wasn't going to be part of it. Her reaction was outright venomous. She screamed at me, called me pathetic, said I was stupid for trusting a bitch like me, and told me I'd regret walking away. Honestly, I was too exhausted to argue. I just left her there, walked out that door, and slammed it behind me. I felt a mix of relief and despair. Relief that I finally stood up for myself, but despair because I realized that everything I thought we had was gone, that I'd been played like a fool. Over the next few days, I tried to keep it together. I threw myself into work, kept busy, and avoided her calls. But inside, I was a mess. Every memory, every moment I shared with her felt tainted. How could she lie so effortlessly? How could she pretend to be the loving wife I knew while sneaking around with my best friend? It was a betrayal on every level, emotional, mental, and even physical in some twisted way. I felt like my trust had been shattered into tiny pieces, and I didn't know if I could ever glue it back together. I also reached out to some friends, guys I trusted, to talk. Some told me I should just cut her out completely, go no contact, and move on. Others said I should try to get closure, maybe even try to work it out if she was willing to be honest. But deep down, I knew I just needed time. Time to heal, to process all the pain, and to figure out what I really wanted. I realized I'd spent so much of my life trying to make her happy, and all it got me was betrayal and heartbreak. That night I couldn't sleep again. I kept thinking about how she lied, how she manipulated her way out of trouble, how she thought she could just keep doing this forever. That's when I made a decision. I wasn't going to sit around waiting for her to change. I was done. Done pretending everything was okay. Done trusting her. I was going to get a divorce, cut that toxic chapter out of my life, and finally try to rebuild myself from the ground up. I know it's going to be a long road ahead. I don't expect to forget her overnight or even in months, but I do believe I need to start fresh. Her betrayal was a blow I never saw coming, and it's going to take time to recover from the shock. But I've learned one thing for sure: never ignore your gut feelings. If something doesn't feel right, pay attention. Because sometimes that little voice inside is the only thing standing between you and total heartbreak. The process of moving on has been brutal, but I've come to realize that I can't keep dragging this out. Every day feels like a roller coaster. Sometimes I feel angry, other times just numb. I've been trying to focus on my job, my friends, and myself, but the wounds from her betrayal cut deep. I keep asking myself how someone I loved so much could turn into a stranger, a liar, a cheater. And honestly, I keep replaying every moment, wondering how I missed all the signs, how I let myself become so blind. I started taking steps toward divorce. I met with a lawyer, laid out everything I had found, screenshots, messages, her lies. It's a long process, but I'm determined to get out of this mess with some dignity intact. I don't know what the future holds, but I do know I need to leave her behind. The trust is gone. The love, the hope, everything I ever believed in, shattered beyond repair. It's honestly hard to even look at her now without feeling a surge of anger or sadness. But here's the crazy part. I've also started taking care of my mental health. Therapy, mostly. I've realized I need help processing this pain and betrayal. It's one thing to know she cheated, it's another to deal with the aftermath. I've been honest with myself about how I feel. I let myself cry, get angry, and even feel stupid for trusting her so blindly. That honesty has been a huge relief. I've been telling myself it's okay to feel broken for a while, but I also remind myself that I deserve better. I deserve honesty, respect, and someone who's loyal. One thing I've learned from all this is that betrayal doesn't just hurt. You start to question everything about yourself. Your judgment, your worth, your ability to trust again. But I also realize that I can't let her take all my happiness away. I have to rebuild step by step. I've been reconnecting with old friends, doing things I love, and trying to find my footing again. It's not easy, and some days I feel like giving up. But I know I have to keep going. The anger is still there, simmering underneath everything. I'm angry at her for lying, for cheating, for breaking what I thought was unbreakable. I'm angry at myself for not seeing it sooner, for being so naive. And I'm angry at Alex, who I once trusted, who was supposed to be my friend. The betrayal is almost too much to bear sometimes, but I also know that harboring that anger isn't going to fix anything. I have to find a way to let it go for my own sake. So I've made a firm decision. I'm not fighting to save this marriage anymore. I loved her once, but I don't anymore. The person I thought she was, loyal, honest, caring, turned out to be someone else entirely. That's a hard lesson, but I've accepted it. I don't want to wake up every day feeling like I'm living a lie. I want peace. I want to rebuild my life from the ground up without her lies shadowing everything. That's what I'm aiming for now. I know I'll be okay eventually. It's going to take time, and I'll have days where I feel like I'm back at square one. But I'm determined to heal. I want to be better, stronger, and wiser. And I want anyone else going through this to know it hurts like hell, but you can survive. Trust your instincts. Don't ignore the signs, and don't be afraid to walk away from someone who doesn't deserve you. Because at the end of the day, self-respect and self-love are what matter most. And I owe that to myself now more than ever. Looking back, I realize that this whole ordeal has changed me in ways I never expected. The pain, the betrayal, it's a heavy load to carry, but it's also made me stronger in some weird, messed up way. I've learned to trust myself more, to listen to that voice inside that tells me when something's off. I've become more cautious, more aware that not everyone around me has good intentions. And most importantly, I've learned that my happiness has to come first. No one else is going to prioritize me the way I need to be prioritized, and that's a lesson I'll carry for the rest of my life. I've also come to understand that sometimes people are just not who they say they are. Emily was supposed to be my partner, my best friend, the one person I thought I could count on. Turns out, she was just a stranger hiding behind a pretty face and a bitchy attitude. Her cheating with Alex was the ultimate betrayal, and it's taken me a long time to accept that I can't change her, I can't fix her, and I shouldn't waste my energy trying. I've moved out, started the divorce process, and I'm slowly rebuilding what was lost. It's not easy, and some days are still darker than others. But I've made peace with the fact that I deserve someone who's honest, loyal, and respectful. Someone who wouldn't even think of cheating during a tough time like my father's funeral. Because let me tell you, nothing hits harder than discovering that the person you loved most in the world was cheating on you all along. It's a gut punch that leaves you questioning everything. But I also know that I can get through this. I'll find happiness again. Maybe not right away, maybe not with her, but with myself. I'll rebuild my confidence, my sense of trust, and my hope for what's next. For anyone reading this who's going through something similar, don't let the betrayal define you. Don't stay in a situation where you're being lied to, manipulated, or taken for granted. Sometimes, walking away is the bravest thing you can do. And if you're hurting now, just remember, this pain won't last forever. With time, healing, and a little bit of self-love, you'll come out the other side. Stronger, wiser, and ready to find someone who truly deserves your trust.